Call Me By Your Name, banned. The Perks of Being a Wallflower, banned. The Handmaid's Tale, banned. And even the Bible, banned. All banned for sexual content. Over 4,000 books were banned in the United States in just one school year. The aim is not to ban certain books out of existence, but to prevent access in public schools and libraries, especially for younger readers. The number of book bans in the US has tripled in just a few years. On TikTok and Instagram, there's now a counter-movement. The hashtag #ReadBannedBooks aims to draw readers' attention to books that have changed the lives of millions and have now been banned. So what's behind it? Who exactly is pushing for books to be banned? And why? For centuries, dictatorships and religious leaders have banned books.
Censorship has always existed. Since people have been talking, they've forbidden talking. Since they've been writing, they've forbidden writing.
But the latest surge in book bans in schools and libraries in the US, and also Argentina, is being driven by parents and conservative circles. A bitter conflict is raging over which books young people should get to read at school.
Schools should be places of free thinking and intellectual freedom. It's precisely at this stage that young people's critical thinking develops.
Margaret Atwood's novel The Handmaid's Tale became an instant classic when it was published in 1985. It describes a dystopian future under an authoritarian regime, in which fertile women are enslaved and forced to produce children for their masters. The book's sexual scenes describe systematic rape. It's one of the most frequently banned books of the last 20 years. Another title, Gender Queer, a Memoir, is a graphic novel that caused controversy. Parents complained it included depictions of pedophilia. The picture in question, a reference to an ancient Greek vase with a sexual scene painted on it.
We see different trends. It's mostly to do with controversial topics that deal with sexuality, mental health, suicide. It's always about books which have rough edges, but it's always about identity and gender. It's a global trend.
Generally, here's how the book bans work at US schools. Teachers or parents complain to school authorities about a book being offensive. Committees of teachers, librarians, and parents make a recommendation, and school authorities decide whether a book should be removed from the curriculum or taken out of the school library. Bans are particularly prevalent in conservative states such as Florida, Iowa, and Texas. A driving force behind these book bans in the US is Moms for Liberty, a group of conservative activists who've become increasingly influential on school policy in recent years. They say they want to protect their children.
I brought the book Genderqueer. Inside this book are images of a young lady giving oral sex to another young lady, and I had to blur these scenes out.
I have a great-grandson in middle school. I know his mother checks his apps every day, but she doesn't have the opportunity to go into the library and see what's available to him in the library. These books are pornographic. There's no question about it, and we want to see them removed.
But what's the definition of pornography? Pornography, books, magazines, films, etc., with no artistic value that describe or show sexual acts or naked people in a way that is intended to be sexually exciting. How do writers react to the accusations? Ellen Hopkins has been writing books for young readers for 20 years. Her novels sell millions of copies, and they're among the most frequently banned in US school libraries. Her books deal with harsh realities faced by many teenagers: drug addiction, mental illness, and prostitution. So yes, sex is a topic too.
Teenagers have sex, or they're thinking about it, or they're wondering about it, or they're saying no to it, or they're saying yes to it. And if we can give them some kind of way to think about it that has a little bit broader way of looking at it than like just, the first time it touches them, I think that's better. I always say you can't arm kids with ignorance. You arm kids with knowledge.
I see these book bans as a reawakening of moral censorship. This is, of course, a moral censorship, in quotation marks, which is always politically motivated.
Book bans are now also causing a stir in Argentina. These 4 books were removed from schools following a complaint from parents, again saying the books were pornographic. Argentina's Vice President, Victoria Villarruel, weighed in on X.
Stop sexualizing our children. Remove those who promote harmful agendas from the classroom. Respect the innocence of children, not with children.
But is it just about depictions of sexuality, or is there more to it?
With regard to Argentina, we can see that the books they tried to censor were all written by women.
Earth Eater, in English, is the story of a young woman with the power to hear the stories of the dead. That's how she finds out that her mother was a victim of sexual violence and ended up being killed.
These stories are about femicides, about people who are suffering or who have been forgotten. It's important to hear these stories. It's important to remember the femicides that happen in Latin America.
So is it about not wanting to hear about certain topics? Exactly which books are being banned in the US? The Writers Association PEN says 36% of banned books in 2023-24 were about people of color. 25% were about LGBTQ+ people. Only 13% contained explicit depictions of sexual experiences.
Those who have the power to enforce this censorship control the narratives in our societies. This is very important and shows the importance of culture and art in our societies and the power that they have.
Tango Makes 3 is based on a true story. At New York's Central Park Zoo, 2 male penguins hatched an egg and raised a chick together, banned due to supposedly inappropriate content. And Freckle-Faced Strawberry by Oscar-winning actress Julianne Moore tells the story of a red-haired girl who dislikes her freckles and gets bullied because of them. Then she learns to live with them. The book is currently under review for a ban. So what's the problem here?
Otherness, dealing with otherness, inclusion. All of this is on a left-wing woke agenda, according to Trump. Equal opportunities, respect for minorities. Anti-racism is also on the negative list.
Indoctrination is an accusation that's often raised when books about racism are used in schools. Classics such as The Color Purple or the bestseller The Hate You Give, both successfully adapted into films, are also among the most frequently banned books in the US.
What did you do?
When minorities suddenly start speaking out, and this has happened more and more in recent years, there's a huge backlash from the unsettled majority in society.
Why have almost all of Ellen Hopkins' books for young people been banned? The books deal with tough topics, but are they dangerous for teens?
I write hard contemporary subject matter, difficult stuff, because all kids' lives aren't pretty, and every kid deserves representation in a book. Every kid deserves to be able to see someone that looks like them, that's going through the same thing, that will hopefully come out the other end and be okay.
In her stories, Ellen Hopkins has drawn on her own family's experiences. They've struck a chord with an audience of millions.
Over those 20 years, I have gotten literally tens of thousands of emails, messages. It used to be handwritten letters, not so much anymore, but from readers who thanked me for turning them away from a path, for giving them insight into a loved one's addiction, for keeping them from committing suicide on the night they were going to, because they read something in a book of mine that made them change their minds that night.
An art installation made from banned books, a memorial against censorship. Literature professor Nicolas Rosbach created the Castle List from it, a database of all books that have been banned worldwide to date. 120,000 titles and counting. Many of the bans go back centuries. Let's take a look back. Book printing was invented around 1450. It was a revolutionary innovation that made it easier to spread writings and new ideas. The Catholic Church saw it as a potential danger and was keen to control who was reading what. In 1559, it drew up the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, a list that sent a message to all believers. Reading these books is a sin. On the list, Martin Luther's translation of the Bible, but also groundbreaking works by philosophers and scientists. Anything that could shake the Catholic Church's worldview was banned. Another group who targeted books were the Nazis. Right after they came to power in Germany in 1933, the book burnings started. Based on a list compiled by a librarian, the Nazi-dominated German Student Union orchestrated book burnings in cities across the country. Over 20,000 works by Jewish, communist, and socially critical authors were thrown into the flames. Propaganda Minister Josef Goebbels applauded the action.
Diese mitternächtige Stunde den Ungeist der Vergangenheit den Flammen anzuvertrauen.
It has always been the case that people have sought to achieve a great symbolic value by physically burning copies of books that they wanted to ban, that they didn't like. It's an archaic ritual that continues to this day.
Atwood reacted to the bans with her own protest. She put out a special edition of The Handmaid's Tale that's 100% fireproof. Throughout history, books have mainly been banned by conservatives and the right wing. But in recent years, progressives have increasingly been entering the debate about which books are good for young people and which are not. Huckleberry Finn, Pippi Longstocking, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. These children's books are still loved and revered by millions of readers today because they're revolutionary and imaginative. But they use language that's now being critically examined with today's values and found by many to be sexist, racist, hurtful. One publisher has changed the language in Roald Dahl's books to make it more sensitive. They took out descriptions like ugly and fat. They took out the word crazy and replaced it with furious or silly. Is that censorship, or is it showing sensitivity? The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain is perhaps the best example of how the battle lines can shift. Shortly after its publication in 1885, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was one of the first books to be banned from libraries in Massachusetts. Librarians declared it to be trash and suitable only for the slums. In the 1950s, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People criticized the book for promoting racism. The N-word is used 200 times in the book. Now it's increasingly being removed from school curriculums. So what's the solution? Leaving in a racial slur? Just deleting it, as if such attitudes never existed? Or rewriting a classic like Huck Finn?
Once a book is printed with the author's okay, that's the author's words there, and the author says that's it. If you look at Mark Twain, the reason he wrote the way he did was because he wanted to show how ludicrous he thought slavery was. So when you look at it with his outlook in mind, you need to keep the words that he wrote, the way he wrote them. I think it's really important.
I think it's important that you are sensitive yourself, that you hear and see the people affected. And then you make a decision, that you don't just ignorantly declare, I've been saying this for 50 years, I'm going to keep on saying it.
Now that we've seen some of the reasons given for book bans at schools and libraries, what are the conclusions?
A lot of books that are currently on the markets hurt me, but that's the way it is. Freedom is always the freedom of the one who thinks differently, as the Rosa Luxemburg quote goes, and a lot of things that are on the market can hurt, but as long as they are allowed by law, they should be there.
It's a debate that's highly polarizing. But shouldn't books actually have the opposite effect? Shouldn't they help us listen to and understand each other? What do you think? Are some books harmful? Should they be kept out of the hands of all young people? Or should young people be able to decide for themselves which topics they can and can't handle?